and welcome to the Code Clarity podcast. I'm Jean, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by Sophie from Medactive. Sophie is a very experienced signatory who manages a team of signatories and has trained many signatories. So thank you very much, Sophie, for joining us this week.
Thank you, Jean, for having me.
Good. So Sophie, I wanted to ask you, if I have just come fresh out of the NHS, I am a very, very competent healthcare professional. I've decided to join pharmaceutical industry, and it benefits my clinical experience in that world. And because I'm a qualified pharmacist or medic, the company would like me to be a signatory. So I've spent the weekend, I've read the ABPI Code of Practice. I'm ready to be notified as a signatory. What do you think?
So I would say that's quite ambitious. I think my experience is that it's not just about the theory. I think it's the practical application of what you're doing. So I think it's all very well reading and understanding the theory behind the ABPI code, or maybe being, an experienced or knowledgeable person on a therapy area. But I think it's very different when you actually get into the pharmaceutical industry and you then need to do the activity and sign a piece of material off. And I think you need experience, I think, is for me, would bode you in the best way.
So a bit like, I guess, I'm just thinking of driving tests. You sit your theory exam and then you've got to do the practical exams. I think you're saying that we need to do a practical, we need to practice actually being a signatory. I mean, so what if I say, well, I've done a week's course. So I've done an intensive course. I've now done a week. I've been trained on all these bits. I've had some scenarios and whatever. Is that okay? Can I be a signatory now?
I would still suggest that you maybe just step back a little bit and just got a bit more experience. And I think what I mean by that is actually embedding yourself in a company, or and surrounded by people who do that in an everyday, like that's what they do every day. And I think you need to gain not just the experience of the code, but it's experience of it is that practical application. So it's the scenarios that you face, they're always going to be different. There's always going to be a nuance or something which you'll need to think about. And I think you need to understand the review process. You need to be able to bounce ideas off other people, and you need to be able to build up your knowledge, but in a way that you're learning and you've got a safe environment to do it. And I think if you go straight in as that final signatory, for me, I think you're missing something that would be really beneficial to you to develop and grow as a signatory, in having that earlier stage where you really can get a mentor, or you can get somebody just checks what you're doing or talks to you and gives you guidance and advice on maybe a different way of looking at it.
Okay, so I guess 2 points there. So first, you mentioned there about the importance of the review process, and I guess that's what, if you're in industry and you're involved in the creation of materials or activities, you can be involved in the review process, but be looking at how the signatories are assessing it. Is that a time thing? Do you think you need to review for 6 months, a year, or is it a volume thing? Because you've talked about different activities. I mean, do you have to see so many different activities before you can become a signatory? How do we look at that?
I think it's probably individual, to be honest. I think that people respond in different ways, and I don't think there should be a sort of set rule as to what the number or the volume is. I think it's about people working, reviewing and getting confident maybe in an area. Then they could do final signatory elements around a particular area if they feel comfortable in it, and then pushing themselves again, trying a new area. But I think for me, it's always not being afraid to say you don't know, and to ask before you decide to sign, because that's probably the worst thing for everyone, if you do something based on something you don't really have enough knowledge on.
Okay, yeah, so that whole unconscious incompetence piece. Okay, so what would be your top tips? Could be 3, could be less, could be more, of if you were in industry and you either want to become a signatory, or you want to become, at the moment it's not been published yet about non-medical signatories, but you want to be a non-medical signatory, AQP. What would be your top tips in order to get to that goal?
I think aspire to being that final signatory, and that's what your goal is, but I don't think going straight in. So I would suggest having a place where you can go, you know, I went through medical information, and for me that was a really good way of me being able to see the environment. But there's lots of different ways you can go into being part of the review process. Engage yourself in as much activity and absorbing everyone around you. So, you know, meetings where things are discussed, listening to, you know, code cases or things where you start to understand the practical kind of application of it. And I think, to me, they're the top things, that immerse yourself in it, but don't give yourself that responsibility straight away necessarily. It will come with time, and it will be at the right time. That would be my suggestion.
Brilliant. So aspire, immerse and engage. Yeah?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sophie. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.